Manufacturing is an area where Oregon has a strong and proud tradition. Still, unfortunately, manufacturing as an overall percentage of U.S. employment continues to fall everywhere. In today's developed economies, net growth in new jobs around the world has not come from manufacturing, it's come from service industries. Still, for some manufacturing companies, there is real promise. In those areas where we can demonstrate high performance, specialized knowledge, and uniquely productive advantages, we will set ourselves apart from and compete against very able competitors. And let's not also forget that U.S. manufacturing has been the largest driver of productivity gains by a factor of 3 over the last decade and is an underlying and important factor in ensuring that we have the productivity growth that we need going forward. Overall, boosting exports will create jobs in supporting service industries such as design, trucking, shipping, and logistics. This holds the potential to spur new opportunities in our installed manufacturing base, especially those that are able to innovate to support the coming changes that we'll see in the service sector. With its focus on the traded service sector, and especially clusters that thrive on ideas, innovation, design, and unique assets, the Oregon Business Plan taps into this critical vein of job growth and points the way for services and manufacturing alike. The key to both will be innovation in approach and execution, and the ability to experiment, collaborate, evolve, and deploy quickly. Lastly, I'd like to talk for a moment about the issues that are holding back the economy in the near term. Make no mistake, we have a dual-speed economy. Businesses, particularly those that are poised to take advantage of the innovation crucibles that I described earlier with exposure to Asian economies, are in fact growing and producing substantial productivity improvements. At the same time, many other businesses, particularly those that have been dependent on more local construction and service growth, have not, and the government is lagging behind. So let me talk about an opportunity that promises potential of $1 trillion in productivity gains from innovation and improvements that can be gained nationally and here in Oregon. The 4 anchors, if you will. The first anchor is the estimated $650 billion that the U.S. spends for healthcare that is beyond what any other OECD country pays and which cannot be explained by better population health factors. In 2006, the U.S. spent $2.1 trillion on healthcare, more than we spend on food, and more than the Chinese spend on everything. With growth in healthcare costs continually exceeding GDP growth, it begs the question, why do we spend more, get less, and continue to shrug it away? Much of this excess is driven by characteristics of our system we understand: high outpatient program costs, the judgment-based nature of physician decision-making, technological innovation that drives prices higher, demand growth and price-insensitive patients who often do not see or share the cost burdens. Add to these drug and healthcare administration costs, and you have costs that are higher than anywhere else in the world. Addressing these, or even a subset of them, can have stunning performance improvement and productivity improvements that are waiting to be mined for both business and government alike. Make no mistake about it, this is a CEO-level issue. You'll be having a panel on this later. I know my colleague Tim Ward will be here to talk a little bit about that. The second anchor holding back the U.S. economy is in the form of $100 to $300 billion at least of efficiency opportunities that are in the public sector itself. Our analysis has demonstrated that if the public sector could close even half of the efficiency gap with similar private sector organizations, its productivity could be 5 to 15% higher. Generating this level of savings is possible even before tackling supercharged issues such as defense spending, public sector employee benefits, or incarceration costs. Private sector has found ways to boost their performance in many of these areas, and there's little reason to think that the public sector can't do the same. Half of that difference would amount to $100 to $300 billion a year nationally. The third anchor, and one that was a core part of the Oregon Business Plan, is the adverse effect on our economy that results from the subpar performance of students in our public education system. The recently released PISA results that showed international comparisons show this starkly. The leading place in the world for both math scores was Shanghai in China. Putting numbers against these relative and routine underachievement costs in the economy are sobering and, if in aggregate, shameful. Educational shortcomings in the U.S. impose the economic equivalent of a permanent national recession. A focus on closing this achievement gap, whether it's racial, educational, or between the U.S. and the highest performing parts of the world, could result in somewhere between $300 and $500 billion more of GDP growth every year. Recent work focusing on one powerful lever for educational improvement, recruiting teachers from the top third of college graduates, could be achieved with modest sums relative to the knock-on drag of GDP from poor-performing school systems. The final anchor comes from the tremendous missed opportunities resulting in underinvestment in energy efficiency and its productivity. Under reasonable estimates, global energy demand is going to rise over the next 20 years at 2.2%, up from the 1.7 average we've had over the last 2 decades. Obviously, that's going to point to, without new energy supplies, higher costs. And even holding aside issues around climate change and carbon intensity, McKinsey Global Institute research suggests that returns from investing on energy efficiency, the level of output we achieve for the energy we consume, are very attractive. Investments like upgrading equipment, home efficiency standards, could generate global energy savings ramping up to almost $1 trillion by 2020 on an average upfront global investment of $170 billion, resulting in an average annual return on investment in excess of 17%. And I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of investments that are achieving 17% returns these days. The U.S. share of this energy efficiency opportunity is an annual savings of between $100 and $200 billion over the next decade. A wide range of energy market failures currently discourage consumers and businesses from embracing higher energy productivity, which in turn deters investors from making the capital outlays that can help users overcome some of these initial financing barriers. This must and can be changed. So if you add these 4 anchors together, you arrive at over $1 trillion of lost opportunity in the U.S., 7% of the U.S. GDP. We cannot have a fast-growing private sector when it's being drugged back by these 4 anchors. Think about Oregon's share of that and the potential opportunities to be captured in terms of savings, increase in demand for goods and services, and offsets to other hidden costs associated with these inefficiencies. The really good news in all of this is that we actually possess many of the solutions to the very things that have landed us in this place that we found ourselves. What we have lacked in many cases is the will to act for fear of upsetting vested interests or because of blind allegiance to particular ideologies, in many cases feeling like we were helpless to act. These are limiting orthodoxies that must be challenged and laid to rest. Doing so will help us think effectively about how to organize the delivery of essential public and private goods that will support our quality of life. The time is now to muster the will to act, to have the adult and difficult conversations we have sidestepped for too long. And innovation is going to be the key across all these arenas. Oregon has been and continue to be a hotbed for the kind of new ideas and approaches that are game-changing here and beyond. If Oregon were to act decisively on all these fronts by providing new innovation and leading an example for public-private collaboration, the conversation that we can have 3 years from now will be very different from the one we're having today. Look forward to continuing the conversation over the course of the rest of the day. Thank you very much.